A minute before we do indeed some of the broader mining plays. Julia, your thoughts on the session? The small caps are a bit of an outperformer.
We did see the small caps outperforming. This was a trend which really started last week, where we did see the small cap miners especially outperforming the rest of the market. And the small cap index last week increased by about 1.7% compared to the rest of the market, which only saw an increase of 0.3%. Today we saw the market up by 0.2%, so a slight increase, but those small caps really outperforming again, up by 0.9%. We saw stocks like Discovery Metals as well as Impella up by a massive 11%. And of course, a lot of the strength were with those iron ore miners, where we saw Atlas up by 9.9%. We saw also Fortescue up by 7.3%. But I think the thing that surprised me most about today was the volumes going through the market. It's highly unusual for a Monday to break that $4 billion mark. In fact, since the new financial year, there's only been 2 Mondays where we've gotten past that $4 billion trader mark. And today was the third Monday that we've seen in that new financial year. And that's surprising given the big risk events that Michael mentioned later on in the week, the German ruling on the European Stability Mechanism as well as the Federal Reserve 2-day meeting. So it does look like a little bit more confidence in the market after that European Central Bank move last week and also the China stimulus package. And this volume was despite some bad numbers coming out around the region. We saw some weak Chinese import numbers, but also Japanese GDP numbers were a bit of a shocker. The second quarter GDP numbers, the initial read was a growth of 1.4%. That was revised down to just 0.7%, so that initial number being halved. And of course here domestically we saw a weak July home loans data out as well. So altogether the Australian market showing some strength in the face of some weak numbers coming out all over the region and some good volumes from Monday.
It comes against the backdrop, the likes of BHP Billiton today, some announcements in terms of their open pit mine, a sale to Rio Tinto of other operations, and as well I suppose Xstrata as well coming out with about 600 job losses as coal prices soften and costs rise.
Well, I guess the iron ore miner is doing very well, and that's to be expected when you hear of a $157 billion stimulus package out of China, 1 trillion yuan package. Now that's about 1/4 of the size of the stimulus package that we saw during the global financial crisis. But essentially this is an infrastructure package. The money is going to be spent on 25 subway lines as well as highways. So this is good news for bulk commodities. Now, the nature of infrastructure projects is that it does tend to hit growth numbers as well as the demand for these products a little bit later than just handouts would. And so these infrastructure projects, they have an average life or a construction time of about 4 years. But altogether, the announcement around that stimulus, great news for iron ore prices as well as commodity prices. And we saw the iron ore miners' share prices reacting to that. Of course, some of the announcements that we are seeing from the miners are still in regards to the softer commodity prices and the rising costs that we're seeing. And BHP, we already know, has deferred major projects like Olympic Dam, Peak Downs, as well as the Outer Harbour project. Today we heard that they will also be stopping production from their Gregory metallurgical coal mine in Queensland. They've also terminated 6 tenement deals with Tasman Resources, which is a smaller deal. Of course, we saw the sale of their 37% stake in Richards Bay to Rio Tinto. So Rio Tinto basically doubling their stake in that Richards Bay project, which accounts for, I think, about 14% of the world's supply of titanium dioxide. So the miners still buckling down, and it is about cash preservation at the moment. While on the other hand, we are starting to see some central bank stimulus action, and that should help the miners in terms of share price action. And we certainly saw that starting to flow through today. Some absolutely fantastic performance. So when you see the likes of Discovery Metals up 11% in one session, Atlas Iron up by almost 10%. Those iron ore miners, while they were suffering from that lower iron ore price, when you see a stimulus package the size of 1 trillion yuan in terms of infrastructure, that's always going to help.
Patrick, I mean,